Day after National Signing Day, new commitments, so much to talk about. We have was it 4 new commitments this week to discuss? Is it 4? Is it 5? I can't even remember. So many in both the 2025 and 2026 recruiting classes. We're gonna have one of those new commitments on the show today. Kyle, trust that you are well, my friend. You fired up for today's show?
I'm pretty fired up because we're going to have a special guest, and I'm excited to get to that interview.
Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video if you're watching live, watching back. If you're listening via podcast, appreciate you all as well. Please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. So on Wednesday, Notre Dame signed 25 prospects in the 2025 class. And the day after signing day, you get a new commitment from Sullivan Garvin. Tim Hyde and I did a video on Big Sully that we posted right after Mr. Garvin announced his commitment. You guys will have to watch that after the show. And Mr. Garvin is also kind enough to join us today. Sullivan, congratulations on your Notre Dame commitment, man. How's the day going so far?
It's been great. Thank you for having me.
I'll throw it over to you, Kyle. Again, folks, 6'6". Is that an accurate height and weight, or at least close, 6'6", 300?
Yeah, that's about accurate. Usually it's like 6'5.5" everywhere I go, so about the same.
I mean,
I'll take an extra inch, you know.
Right? Yeah, for a high school junior, yeah, big hombre there. So picking Notre Dame over Purdue, Indiana, Cincinnati, Washington, Kansas, someone who I personally think would have had a lot more offers too, but locking in that early commitment. So Kyle, throw it over to you. What do you want to talk to Sully about?
Well, what's it like in Allegan today with all that snow? It sounds like you got the day off.
Yeah, it was bad. We've gotten a few inches overnight. I'd say 8, 6, 7 inches, and yeah, they canceled school. It's pretty rough. I had a haircut a little bit ago, and the roads are terrible.
Well, I appreciate you getting spruced up for our show
Oh yeah.
YouTube. I just wanted to start kind of this little interview, and my first question this way is because I remember when I went up to Allegan during football season, I had talked with you and your coach about the amount of support that you had gotten after you got the Notre Dame offer, and like how impactful that was to the community because, Coach Danzig, he pretty much told me that like after you got that Notre Dame offer, I don't know if it was the next week or the week after or later on in the season or if it was for a homecoming game or something, like that was the biggest crowd that Allegan High ever had in a football game. Hopefully you can hear me and I'm not cutting in and out. But yeah, so anyway, I just want to know, like, now that you made that decision and announced it today, what was the outpouring of support like? I'm sure it's a little bit different since you weren't in school, but could you just take us behind the scenes on the reaction from friends, family, Notre Dame fans after you announced your decision?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's been crazy. My friends, family, they're all real proud of me, and social media has been blowing up. I put it on Twitter at noon, and it's 27,000 views and a few hundred likes. My Instagram, I put it out there, it has 1,000 likes. It's Notre Dame support runs deep. It's awesome.
What was it like kind of going through the hallways at school throughout your recruiting process? Like, could you ever get to a class without someone running into you and asking you where you're going to go? Or how was this visit? Where are you going next? What were those experiences like going throughout the school day, being such a big time recruit there at Allegan?
There's always some of my friends that'll mess with me, but some of the teachers, they keep up with it and they ask, and it's pretty cool. Just walking around and trying to get to a class and someone asks you that. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So, one thing I've kind of learned in talking to you, I guess maybe this is just something, an observation I've gathered, but I don't really know how much of this you really expected to come your way. I know you visited Notre Dame in the spring. Western Michigan was an early offer. Indiana offered on July 4th, but I can't imagine that you would have, expected your recruitment to become this big and maybe so much of a challenge. But I want to focus on the positives of going throughout this recruitment. Some of those favorite experiences that you had, what it was like getting to know a lot of the coaching staffs, getting to see college campuses, how unique an experience all that was for you.
Yeah, definitely. So first time I went to um Notre Dame to a tour, and they showed us it was spring practice, and they showed us like the recruit lounge and everything. I started thinking about how if I get there for a game, like to experience all that. Then I got there for the Louisville game, and getting to see the player walk was really cool. And then once I made it back for the Virginia game, I got to be a part of it, walking all the way from the church to the stadium and then into the recruit lounge. That was awesome. I mean, I remember walking with Chad and there's like four fans that they knew me just from online and they kind of yelled out my name. So that was really special. That was probably my favorite memory, walking from the church and some few people recognize me.
Mike, I'll throw it over to you.
So committing just after junior season ending, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
It's early. Or you got a year until signing day for your class. Why this early? Why? Well, you could have, done some official visits announced then. Like, why now, Sully?
I mean, since the first time I've been there, this place has felt like home. Um, so I didn't really see a point in waiting because it's already felt like I've been committed there. I mean, the relationships I have with the whole staff, everybody, it felt like there was no point to not to do it now. Um, just get it over with and start focusing on Notre Dame and like my future, and then also just next year with my team
Yeah.
finishing that out, and then I don't know. Notre Dame's just always felt like home, and I wanted to make it official as quick as possible. Really.
So you got that offer from Notre Dame on September 28th. Your boy over here puts in that prediction 2 days later. Just it felt like for me, I was like, all right, this one makes a lot of sense. Did you know then, like, okay, I still want to go on more visits stuff, but like, did you know from that Louisville game, like, yes, this probably is the spot? Like, when did you kind of know internally, yeah, this is probably gonna be it?
I would definitely say after the Louisville game. I mean, they were already my number one school prior to that game, and then going into it, getting the offer, experiencing the atmosphere, watching my parents' reaction to the environment and the coaching staff and everything. I mean, I already knew it was home, and then seeing their reactions just solidified it even more. Because I mean, if my parents feel like it's home as well, it's definitely the place to be. But yeah.
I am curious about the prediction things because I know I wasn't the only one to do one. I think one of the guys at 24/7 did. When you see that, is it like, oh, that's annoying, or oh, that's fine, I don't care? Any opinion on prediction, Sully?
I thought it was cool. I mean, it was pretty cool that people are like looking that far into my recruitment and into what I think. I found it cool.
Okay. All right, I want to pop on your tape as we ask the next couple of questions. I know you're on a phone, so might be looking like ants on your screen, but
All
tell
good.
me about your game, what you bring to the field, and I would love to know, um, like positionally, like you're playing left tackle,
Mhm.
what you expect to play at Notre Dame if that's conversations they've had with you.
Yeah, for my talks with Coach Rudolph, he sees me as a center or a guard, which I'm perfectly fine with. I'll play anywhere really, but center or guard is where he says that he thinks I'd thrive at. So
So, like, what are your best attributes? Like, what brag about yourself a little bit. So, it's your big day. Tell me what you bring to the football field.
I just feel like dominating at the point of attack, getting off the ball and keeping my hands inside, and I don't know, kind of just from these first few plays, you can see if a lot of run blocking. I feel like I don't know, I'm pretty good at just kind of mauling kids. So
Okay, so you talked about Coach Rudolph there real quick. Tell me about him. Like, what he meant to your recruiting process, and the relationship that you guys built.
he definitely was one of the biggest factors. I mean, he's awesome. Like when I was there at Irish Invasion, um, you can tell he's tough on his guys because there was one-on-one reps where he'd give me coaching. And I really like the way he gives coaching. Like he's tough on his guys, but at the same time, he's such a nice and caring person that it's a great relationship to have both of that at the same time.
All right, my guy I did the video with that I mentioned earlier, Tim Hyde, he just texted me. He said he's in the car running an errand. Asked Sullivan about some of the coaching tips Coach Rudolph has given him, and then what your top goals are in the winter and spring. And he says congratulations on your commitment.
Thank
So
you, thank you.
so coaching tips from Coach Rudolph, and then goals this offseason.
Some tips he's given me. He said from watching my film and evaluating me on like pass plays, sometimes I kick too deep and my frame isn't under me. So we worked on that, inside hands and getting my second step in the ground a lot faster, which I struggle with. And also like outside of actual O-line play, when I was there, we were doing the 5-10-5 drill, and I don't know, I ran a 5.03 the first time. He took me outside, gave me some quick coaching and let me do it one more time, and then I ended up running a 4.84 in the 5-10-5. So his coaching, I feel like I take his coaching really well. Like I just understand him on a different level, you know.
One more quick thing, and I'll throw it back to Kyle. The reaction from the staff. So it's like, all right, I'm going to commit. Who do you call? What's the reaction? Walk me through that.
Yeah, so it was actually right after my Indiana visit. I was coming home, and Chad Bowden, he texted me. He said, "Well, what are we waiting for?" You know. Um, so I told him around 3 that I'd give him a call because I'm ready to make this thing official. Um, and then he actually started setting it up, so he was gonna have me call Coach Freeman. But Coach Freeman was in a meeting, so I ended up calling Coach Rudolph first. Told Coach Rudolph the news. He was really excited. He said he was really fired up and said he's proud of me. And then shortly after, Chad called me and handed the phone to Freeman, and I talked to Freeman for 3-4 minutes, and he was really excited. Said, "Welcome to the family," and he's ready to work with me. You know.
Kyle?
What's the 5-10-5?
It's they tested a lot at camps, so you you line up on the field, you cross run 5 yards to the right or the left, and then you get out, you sprint 10 yards, you touch the line, and you go back through the line you started on.
It's like a
Okay.
shuttle.
Yeah,
Yep,
the shuttle run, yeah.
that's what I thought. The one other kind of athletic testing part, I mean, this is not really testing, that I was kind of curious about is I know someone on our loose emoji message board on the website, they mentioned that your strength really popped off the screen when watching your film. And they were talking about you throwing linebackers into safeties and everything like that. So I was wondering if you could put your strength into numbers, what your PR maybe is a bench, what you're working right now, kind of what's that strength, how's that translates into the weight room in the off season.
Yeah, so, before football season, I have a trainer 40 minutes north from my house. Right a few weeks before season, we maxed our bench. I hit 335, and I haven't maxed power clean in a very long time. I actually did this, the sophomore year, like halfway through, I power cleaned 275. Um, haven't maxed since, but just been working at it every day. And my bench as well has been getting a lot better with my trainer. We had a phase we just ended, and we did band resistance, pretty thick bands, and we had our 1 rep week, and I ended up hitting 300 pounds with bands. So yeah, strength's definitely getting up there and back to where it was after football season.
Mr. Garvin, appreciate your time. You killed it. You were awesome.
Thank you
And
for
we'll
having me.
we'll probably have to have you on again on the recruiting update, man. You did an excellent
Definitely.
job, and
Thank you.
congrats, dude. Congrats on the
Thank you.
commitment, adding to a
Excited.
really good class early on for the Irish.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
All right, Sully, have a good one, man. Thank you.
You too. We'll see you guys.
Did awesome. Awesome. Good kid, Kyle. Good kid. You've enjoyed covering him in person? Because you went out to see him in the fall.
Yeah, he's got a really cool story, and I know we've had some feedback recently on the Blue and Gold, forum about some of my human interest stories. I'm just messing with Mike. Mike talked a little bit about my extensive writing, and I know I used that as an example.
Kyle's a Boy Scout.
Yes, I am. I did that when I went up to Allegan to see him, and it was good getting to know him and his coach, and really good fit for Notre Dame.
We put that in the magazine, right? At the Thanksgiving magazine?
It's in the magazine. I don't know which one, because the Thanksgiving one was Gregory Patrick, another Southwest Michigan offensive.
Okay. Yeah, we gotta make sure that we get a couple copies of the magazine to the Garvin family. Folks, let's talk about Prize Picks. You guys know I love testing my skills on Prize Picks during, not only football season, but Prize Picks has so many different sports that you can play daily fantasy. NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football, soccer, power slap. Is this where like the guys stand on the other side of the table and smack each? Is that what that is? No way. Is that COD, like Call of Duty? League of Legends, tennis, MMA. Like, this is darts. Yeah, guys. Play some daily fantasy on darts. Let's do it, huh? But seriously, folks, check out Prize Picks. If you got the skills, you can turn $10 into 1,000 with just a few taps. It is the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Select 2 or more players, whether they're going to go more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000. Yeah, again, you can turn $10 into 1,000 with just a few taps. Place your entry, and there you go. PrizePicks has really cool weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts as well. Like Taco Tuesday, where each Tuesday PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. And then a personal favorite of mine, Flex Friday, where you get to have a flex play, and if it doesn't hit, you'll get your money back in the form of bonus cash. So download the PrizePicks app or head to prizepicks.com. Make sure you use the promo code BGI to receive a guaranteed $50 once you play $5 in lineups. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Kyle, man, this is, I think I did Monday with Goolsby, Tuesday with Hyde, Wednesday with Hyde and Goolsby, Thursday with Kyle. I am not doing a show tomorrow. I think I'm good. 4 days in a row, no show. Friday. Saturday, no game. Kyle, what are you going to do on Saturday? You're just going to kick back, relax, watch some foosball?
Well, we have a lot of photos to identify in Dropbox, so that might be on my to-do list.
Kyle, sometimes your Boy Scoutness can drive me crazy, but right now, I just give you a big kiss on the cheek for that. Like, that is massive.
Because I noticed you used the Sullivan Garvin photo from the Irish invasion camp for our YouTube thumbnail.
But I didn't label it.
Well, no, well, that's what I'm saying. You
did? Yeah, that's how I would have found it. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that you labeled it. Good job.
Because I spent 2.5 hours before the primetime game on the road a few weeks ago. It wasn't Army. Oh, gosh. I forget which one it was.
Anyways, I just want to reiterate, Sullivan Garvin, really nice pickup for Notre Dame. Tim Hyde was raving about him in the video that we recorded earlier this week and published when Sully announced. Great family, great kid, great. I mean, Notre Dame starting this 2026 class. Like, I think there's been in years past where kids have committed to Notre Dame early and you're like, yeah, I don't know if that one's going to stick. I think with the 5 they've gotten early on, I think you feel pretty good about it. Noah Grubbs, Thomas Davis Jr., Chasten Smith, Sullivan Garvin, Dylan Faison. Like, I think this is going to be a group that sticks with the Irish for the long haul. And Garvin, well, Faison's probably the most likely to stick, but Garvin is right there. Like these kids bleed blue and gold. So again, congratulations to Big Sully on his commitment. So that was, you had Chasten Smith Sunday committed. Monday was Schmidt. Wednesday, Faraimo, and Thursday, Sully. Is that 4 this week?
5. You forgot to add one deer. Well, I think no.
Who did I forget?
Smith, Schmidt, Faraimo, and
Sully.
Yeah, so there's 4. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So solid week of new commitments, including 2 in the 2025 class. So very nice. So all right, let me look at our notes for the show. Let's kind of just talk National Signing Day for Notre Dame. Let me pull up the 2025 commit list, Kyle. Obviously, the big news being Madden Faraimo's commitments to the Irish. And I really wanted to go through this kind of from our lens. Like, okay, my show last night with Tim and Goolsby, it's all about the film. For this one, I want to be a little bit more of like the insider angle, because if you would have asked me, a week ago today, where's Madden going? I would have said, man, it's tight, but I'm leaning Notre Dame. And then he goes to the Notre Dame USC game, and the intel out of that was like, I had heard, Kyle, I don't even know if I shared this with you, that Kyle, do you remember like me and the USC on 3 guy had put out there like, hey, we were here on Monday for Faraimo's announcement? That kind of came about in part because That's what Madden was sharing from what I was told with some USC guys at that visit. So it's like, if that's what he's saying to USC commits and whatnot, it's like, man, you would have to think it's USC. And I really think it was going to be USC. Freeman and staff just kept working it. You do have to wonder how much of an impact that USC's linebackers coach leaving for Fresno State. You can't write this, Kyle. The morning of signing day. Like, not only the morning of signing day, it was like right around like crunch time for like 11 a.m.-ish Eastern time. So it's like right around the time that you would think Faraimo would send in those papers. It's like, oh, your position coach leaves. Can't make this up. So I don't know. I think he woke up that morning thinking it was USC, and I think Notre Dame just continued to work them. And then I think the USC linebackers coach leaving had a big impact. What do you think, Kyle?
Well, I'm gonna have to talk to Madden a little bit about this. I'm giving him some much needed space after he had to make such an emotional and difficult decision. And sometime next week, I'm gonna circle back with him and see if I can get him on the phone and help him or have him help me go through this process. I want to hear from him and see how he unpacks it. But I was opposite of you at this time last week, and this is my sense over the last couple weeks, is I really felt that USC was in the driver's seat, but I feel like it's kind of lame to say it was 51-49, but that's kind of how I felt it was, just because Madden is so tough to read. And that's something Chad Simmons, On3's director of recruiting, had even said, is how difficult it is to get insight into his process and what he's really thinking. He is a very thoughtful kid, but he plays things super close to the vest. And part of that, I don't even think it's necessarily intentional. I just think that he is so diligent and so respective of other schools in the recruiting process. He's not going to dive too deep in his recruitment. But when I interviewed him in early November, something he said stuck out to me, because the first question I asked him was, why'd you make it back to Notre Dame for the Florida State game? You had already been there earlier in the season for Louisville. You're in the middle of a senior season. I knew how important that was to him. And, thankfully for Notre Dame, it lined up to where Notre Dame's Florida State game, their marquee recruiting weekend, was during a bye week for Jacera Catholic as they prepared for the playoffs. So that helped out a lot. But when I asked him that question, his response was, I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see if I can find it. He said, it's definitely not home, being from South Carolina. That was Southern California. That was the first thought he gave me when I asked that question. And right away that stuck out to me, because when I had talked to Madden back in April, his first visit so Faraimo's first trip to Notre Dame was in June of 2023, kind of a casual trip just to familiarize himself with the university and the staff. Things weren't very deep then, but he did make that visit about 9 months later in April for spring practice. That one was way more extensive. And coming out of that April trip, one thing I asked him, one thing he talked to me about, is how he wasn't really comfortable with the living arrangements. He had to get more settled and figure that out a little bit more, and that spring visit really helped him do that. And then by the official visit, he felt okay. So the fact that move on to November, when I asked him why he made it to Notre Dame, just curious why he wanted to get back, the first thing he mentioned to me was it wasn't home like Southern California. That stuck out. The other thing that stuck out, and this doesn't surprise me, that Faraimo was telling people his anticipated commitment date was in Monday, for two reasons. Number one, this is something Chad Simmons said, is that Faraimo wanted to have his decision done before Jacera Catholic signing day ceremony on Wednesday, so all the attention could be off him and just his teammates. So that's why I believe it was on Monday. The second reason why I believe it's on Monday is because he's changed his commitment date, so to speak, privately, a number of times. When I talked to him in early November, he had told me he wanted to make it around Thanksgiving week because all his family would be with him. Family is very important to him. And that was a pretty telltale sign to me that I thought USC had the edge because his brother went to USC. I think he had other family members that had gone to USC. If you're going to make it Thanksgiving weekend, and where are you going to be on Thanksgiving weekend? He was going to be at USC. So I think this whole recruitment was completely setting up for USC to win it. But it sounds like there might have been some divine intervention, and I don't really agree with the whole notion that Notre Dame's a Catholic school, religious school, so they have God on their side. No, I think it's more of Notre Dame recruiting the right people and the amount of time and energy they've invested in those relationships, and that's something Chad Bowden pointed to in his press conference for Faraimo. So that's kind of my whole take on how this thing unfolded behind the scenes, why I felt USC was so well positioned over the last few weeks. And, we can dive into this a little bit more about what he brings to Notre Dame if you want. But regardless, this feels a lot like the Manti Te'o decision back in 2009, where he kind of also chose Notre Dame in the 11th hour.
Yeah. And Kingston Viliamawasa didn't choose Notre Dame at the 11th hour, but like when he did commit to Notre Dame, like this kind of had the same feel because there was more buzz about Ohio State. And then he picked, right? You were with us at that point, Kyle. Yeah, of course.
I was wrong twice. And I told you this during the week. I said that I'm not afraid to admit when I was wrong because I felt it was Ohio State for Kingston Viliamawasa, and I think it was partly some of the same reasons with Faraimo and the USC recruitment. But I told you then that, I'll admit that I was wrong. I said the same thing going up to this recruitment. I said, even though I'm saying USC right now for Faraimo, and that was my stance with Viliamawasa, I said I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again, and that was the case.
So, now we have to do this. So Madden, look at all these USC predictions, right? Your boy stuck with it. June 9th. Yeah, you like that? Okay, what about Kingston? Okay, a lucky one, Mike. How about Kingston? You want to see this one? You want to see this one was crazy. So Kingston committed to Notre Dame. What was it? July 23rd. February, 5 months in advance. Hey man, your boy over here is super hot fire. Kyle, I got 2 up on you right now. 2 over you on Madden and Kingston.
If there's one thing I like about our coverage at Blue and Gold, I think we do a pretty good job of indicating, even far out. And I'm a little bit less public about it with the recruiting predictions, but if you want to sign up on the Loose Emoji message board, I have no problem kind of sharing my thoughts where guys, are kind of trending. And
yeah, just like Ohio State and USC. I'm just teasing you, Kyle.
I think I've helped guide some of those predictions.
I will say, speaking of blueandgold.com, the coverage has been absolutely top-notch, tremendous. I mean, you guys can get Notre Dame recruiting information all over the place, but I'm telling you, it does not touch what we do at blueandgold.com. Okay, maybe it pokes. Maybe a little poke. But that's about it. I mean, just every angle we have it covered. This National Signing Day Central that we did this was like our live updates blog. Look at this. Oh, that's too far. It's too far zoomed in. I mean, so much. I mean, blurbs on every single player with analysis. We had live updates on what Madden Faraimo was up to. My webpage is bugging out. I think it's just loading so many different things, but okay, yeah, it's just not working. We're just gonna leave that. But anyways, it was tremendous. And I will say, Kyle, on Faraimo, and I wrote about this in my 10 thoughts on National Signing Day. I've written this article for a decade, every National Signing Day night. And I wrote that there's two sides of this. One, it doesn't matter when Faraimo committed to Notre Dame. He could have done it in the summer. He could have done it now. He's the same player. We get that. If Faraimo would have committed to Notre Dame in June, and the Irish went into today with the same 25 guys that they ended up with, and didn't had a new splashy commitment at the end, you know what the vibes would have been? We didn't land anyone new. We missed on all these guys. But you land Faraimo on signing day, and the vibe changes how the fans feel about this class. And logically, it doesn't make sense. When you break it down like that, you have the same exact class. It doesn't matter when they sign. It matters about who you sign. But I can't deny that it just it feels good to get this recruiting win. And I wrote about this in my column as well, Kyle. It feels good about this recruiting win over that school, the timing of it all. It couldn't have worked out any better. So the recruiting win, again, who you beat, USC and Texas, how you did it, when you did it, it's a good vibe today. And it's a massive recruit. Like Faraimo, a very, very, very top of the board target for the Fighting Irish. So it's a big one.
Legit. I know Notre Dame's linebacker depth chart is pretty stacked right now, but I don't know how this guy could not see the field next year. I mean, he is completely cut from a different cloth. He played his junior year with a broken forearm. He played this season with a cast on his hand because he had a hand injury. And let me see if I have the exact number of tackles he finished with, because it was absolutely absurd. 113 tackles in 9 games with a hand injury. And I wish I was logged in to my StreamYard so I could share my screen, but unfortunately it logged me out. But I was just going to show you how Madden Faraimo can flip the switch, because he is a very low-key and just kind of neutralized type of personality off the field. But when you get this cat on the field, he is absolutely just a menace.
Yeah, very much like Kingston in that Jake Carr said, how high did the class jump to his commitment? One spot.
Better than
13 to 12. And I broke that down in an article I did today. The class score, I know this is an arbitrary score if you don't understand what it all means, but it was a 90.8, and his commitment jumped it from a 91.1, which is, 0.3 that it went up, but that's pretty big when you already have so many commitments. So yeah, Notre Dame moved up a spot. And the last thing on Madden before we move on, Kyle, like, why doesn't Notre Dame land many late commitments like this? It's just because they're mostly the drama-filled ones. Why does Notre Dame? I will like answer that question with another question. Why does Notre Dame always jump out to such early commitments and early leads in the total amount of pledges? Why does Rivals, the popularity contest rankings website for team rankings, always have Notre Dame 1? Because Notre Dame will have 15 commits and everyone else has like 7. That, like, okay, if you know Notre Dame, you commit. That's why Sullivan Garvin, he was just on our show. And I asked him, why commit now? And he said, I knew where I wanted to go. It's Notre Dame. Insert Luke Holtz quotes here. If you know Notre Dame, no other, you don't need an explanation. If you don't, no other, no explanation will suffice. I don't remember the quote off the top of my head. You just, if you know, you know. And oftentimes, the late drama ones don't pick Notre Dame. The thing with Madden that is different about Madden, Kyle, he hasn't sent out his own tweet in like 7 months. Everything he does on Twitter is him resharing his teammates. Like, he didn't bring this upon himself. He wasn't like asking for all the drama and everything. He just went about his business, and took his time with the process. It was a difficult decision for him to pick between these schools. And I know Chet Simmons had even said Washington was never giving up, and Washington was trying to get in the mix at the 11th hour. So, like, he was kind of an anomaly for one of these late decisions that went Notre Dame's way because it wasn't a drama. Like, he's not a drama-filled kid. Did the recruitment have some drama? Of course, because it went down to the stretch, but he wasn't out there about social media doing all the interviews and all this stuff. Love Nathaniel Usu-Boateng, but like tons of interviews, all these different visits, just much more drama. That's not Madden. That's not Madden, and he picked Notre Dame. So that's my yap. That's my yap on Madden, and then we're gonna talk about some other National Signing Day stuff. But before we do, we're gonna talk about Auggie's Locker Room, the destination for Notre Dame fans. If you're in South Bend, you're driving through, you're stopping in for a football game, whatever the case may be. Maybe you're going for a playoff game, got a little cash to spend. You're going to want to stop in at Auggie's Locker Room to check out unique, one-of-a-kind Notre Dame items. It's located at 1733 North Ironwood Drive in South Bend, right down the street from Notre Dame. They have all sorts of stuff. Notre Dame Stadium pieces, jerseys, helmets, autographs, and one-of-a-kind Rockney items. You can find exclusive Joe Montana signed items, as well as famous sculptor Jerry McKenna's replicas of the bronze statues around the stadium. Auggie gets new stuff in all the time. If he doesn't have something in store, he's going to find it for you. So make sure you visit Auggie at auggiesLockerroom.com online or 1733 North Ironwood Drive in South Bend and see the vintage helm display dating back to 1890. He's got amazing items. You're going to check out auggiesLockerroom.com. And damn it, Kyle, someone bought the mini helmet signed by Joe Alt. I am pretty sure I have the mini helmet, but this is the same mini helmet, but this is not signed by Joe Alt. Dang. Someone bought it. You know why they bought it? Because they're going to try to just jack up the price. That's what they're going to do. They're going to be like, oh, Mike Singer wants this thing, so I'm going to sell it to him for $300. Or, Kyle, or it's someone, the last time I read this ad, they went up ahead and bought it, and they're going to send it to me. That'd be sick. That'd be sick. But if you do, I mean, if you guys want to buy anything for me for my setup back here to maybe remove some Dolphins stuff, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Auggie'sLockerRoom.com. Give Auggie a call. 574-277-6363. Kyle, takeaways from around the country, as you like to say. You are a big national recruiting guy. Like, it's a hobby of yours to just follow what the top recruits are doing across the country. I do too, but maybe not to your level. So what were some of the takeaways nationally? Like, what happened? And Kyle, I don't want to spend too long on this because I don't think this intrigues many people, but for you, what were some of the big things? Like, let me ask you this. Who cleaned up? Like, I know Oregon had a tremendous day. So what schools did really well? I think that might interest some people.
Well, to be honest, it was kind of hard for me to get into the nitty gritty of signing day just because we were so focused on our Notre Dame coverage. So I'll spin it back this way because this is something I put on the loose emoji message board at the end of signing day. And I have been wanting to put this message on there for weeks. I was going to do it weeks ago, but I know everyone would call me a jinx and all that. And I think that's stupid to begin with. That and the broadcaster curse, all that stuff. Give me a break. Come on. There's more going on than jinxes on a message board. But either way, just to please the masses, I ended up waiting to do this till after signing day. And I have to give the Notre Dame coaching staff, recruiting staff, whoever is all involved behind the scenes there in South Bend for the job they did in wrapping up this class and doing it without a hiccup. No drama involved, at least not publicly. I mean, I've checked in privately, as we led into the week. I was almost concerned that it was too quiet, that something weird was going to happen. Like it felt like things were going too well. And in an era when almost what it felt like every top recruit and every top recruiting class across the country were visiting other schools throughout the season, were asking for more money, doing just a number of things. Guys have committed to 2, 3, signed with their third programs. None of that happened at Notre Dame, especially during the season. Now, there is a caveat. The Deuce Knight situation is what it is at this point. And I'll even spin it back this way with Deuce Knight. I mean, Notre Dame wanted Blake Hebert before Deuce Knight. So you could already make the argument that they got their top guy after all. Now, I will hit the blue cap emoji on that because I find it hard to believe that after Deuce Knight's offseason, they would still not have him as their number one quarterback. But either way, back in June of 2023, Hebert was their guy. So, but I was really focused on what I saw this season from opposing recruits and the ones a part of their recruiting classes. It was absolutely chaos nationally. It was, if you go down the commit list on the On3, recruits rankings page to the number 1, 2, 3, all those guys. Take Bryce Underwood, for example. I mean, everyone knows what happened to him flipping to Michigan for $13 million. There were recruitments like that all around the country, and it's just a real testament to the coaching staff, and this is something Marcus Freeman pointed to his conference. They recruit the right guys at Notre Dame, and sometimes, you really, really do narrow down the pool of players you can pull from, but on days like December 4th are when it really matters.
Yeah. How about Brian Kelly whining about money and what was the quote? But On3 tweeted about it, right? Was it On3 or was it the recruits page, Kyle? You know what I'm talking about.
Quote, whatever BK said, it was relevant like 3 years ago. We've been playing in the NIL space for so long. Like
Here it is.
This is just what it is at this point.
He says it's not just about finding the right fit. It's about the money. It's about the most money I can get. That's unfortunate, but it's the world we live in. Just Brian Kelly just yapping. Is there some truth to that? Yeah, but bro, like you just sound like a whiny baby when you do that on signing day because everyone knows who you're talking about. You're talking about Bryce Underwood, Derek Meadows potentially, right? So that's Derek Meadows ended up signing with Bama, by the way. That one was wild. Within like an hour of Underwood flipping to Michigan, you hear Meadows is going to go with them, and then Meadows goes to Alabama. Might I add, when he committed to LSU? Okay, so let me back up real quick. So he commits to LSU. Who were the big schools trying to flip him? Notre Dame, right? But he picked LSU over Notre Dame, Bama, Michigan, right? Then it's like, all right, it's Notre Dame, LSU, neck and neck. Looks like Notre Dame's going to flip them. Nope, now it's Michigan. Nope, now it's Bama. It's like all 4 schools were rumored to land him at so many different times. It was just a wild recruitment. Take a drink every time I say wild recruitment on this show, right? But yeah, you got Kyle or Brian Kelly yapping. And then I will say that with Meadows, like a specific case, like in talking to Notre Dame sources around the time of the Meadows thing, you would just get this sense from folks around the Goog that it's about the right players. It is like, and I've talked to different reporters covering different schools, and other programs are kind of operating the same way. Like, and talking specifically about them, but like Underwood, like if you go all out and spend a ton of money on your high school guys, that can have a negative impact on your roster. And you are spending a ton of money on players that you don't know. I get that Bryce Underwood is one of the best quarterback prospects in a long time, but Jamarcus Russell went number 1 overall in the NFL draft, and he was a total bust, right? Like, you just don't know. Some apples to oranges there, but they're both fruit. You guys understand what I'm saying. You just don't know. You're spending a ton of money on unproven commodities. Notre Dame, do they have the money to go crazy? Sure. But I think they're making the right move and not the splashy move. That's how I feel. Not going out and not going for a portal quarterback, by the way. So if you want to do like a 1 + 2 = 3 kind of thing with this and look at this very black and white, like Notre Dame, if they're not going big in the portal this year like they did with Hartman and Leonard and spend all that money, and you're keeping someone in-house, then you should have more to bring in players at other positions. Now, does it work that black and white? I don't really know specifically. Don't know the ins and outs of that. I wish I could be a fly on the wall for those conversations, but unfortunately I'm not. But still, it does kind of open up more, like, it's just like responsible way to handle this. And one more thing before I throw it over to you, Kyle, I've given this specific example. Chelsea, a Premier League team in England a couple years ago, was it last year or the year before? They went crazy. They bought everyone in the transfer market, and they stunk. They stunk. There's no salary cap. You can do whatever you want in the Premier League in England. They just bought everyone that they could, but they were splashy big moves, but they weren't the right moves. They didn't have the coaches right, and they didn't have a good season. Whereas my Liverpool team spends a lot more, responsibly, and they're top of the Premier League right now. So just because you're spending the most money doesn't mean that you're going to have the best team.
Bill Belichick. Throwing that at you, Mike, out of nowhere. Interviewed for the North Carolina job.
Okay, cool. Hook 'em.
Very, very odd. I found that fascinating. That is random as it gets. You move on from a 72-year-old head coach or 73-year-old head coach for a 72-year-old as an interview. So,
what Kyle? What did you think about the Freeman Bowden press conferences?
I got a lot of thoughts. I wasn't able to tune in
right.
immediately, which was really disappointing because I was handling the Madden Faraimo commitment. I mean, that thing was insane. It took me a while to wrap my head around it just because I was so expecting Faraimo's decision to come through at 3:00 Eastern time. So the fact that Freeman just stepped up there so damn casually, just like so nonchalant, and just saying, yeah, Leonard just came in. He signed with Notre Dame. It was just, that was wild. That was wild. But the one thing that I found tricky about this signing day press conference was it was a lot of big picture stuff about, the way recruiting has changed over the last couple months and last couple years, and how Notre Dame has handled it, the transfer portal, the walk-ons, like all that sort of stuff. And I feel like, unlike years past, we weren't able to get a, in-depth look into some of the players in the recruitment. So I did find that disappointing. And to be completely transparent, I take some ownership in this because I really wanted to be at yesterday's press conference. I just couldn't make it work. So it's not really fair for me to.
Well, that's the thing. You have the beat reporters there, and the beat reporters, most of them don't report on recruiting, so they don't know jack squat about really. So they might here and there on some guys, but yeah, they're going to ask about how does this impact whatever. They're going to ask big picture questions because they just kind of follow it casually and not in the weeds like we are. So
You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. Like there's a lot of the guys on the beat that really are invested in recruiting. And
Yeah, I know.
That's my point. I'm saying in years past, like, we've gotten much insight into like specific players and specific positions. And I know last year that it wasn't going to happen because they split Freeman's 30-minute press conference into 15-minute halves. And the first half was regarding, I think, end of the season wrap up, and there was some commotion because, or no, yeah, it was the end of the season wrap up, and and then after that they only gave about 15 minutes for, only gave about 15 minutes to talk about recruiting, and then this time around, I love what they did where they brought Freeman and Bowden in, but they were short snippets. So, anyway, I wish I was able to be there and ask some more specific questions. But
yeah, I thought my takeaway was good stuff about the quarterbacks and Hebert, and I thought that there was good stuff about Faraimo. The rest of it was kind of like I'm listening and watching, and I roll my eyes. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go work, and I wasn't even paying attention. But those were the two things I was like, all right, there's some really good stuff here. But like the evaluation stuff about like, oh, how we feel good about 3-star guys, like give me a break. What I mean, every class is great. We met our needs. We feel good about our evals. Like, I will say, I think Notre Dame crushed their 3-star evals this cycle. I really do. And you talk to people in the building, like, candidly, that's how they feel as well. They're like, man, everyone. They feel like this is the deepest class that they've signed with like the least amount of like busts. Will that be wrong? Yeah, of course. There's going to be busts, but like Notre Dame is very, very confident in this recruiting class. And like when you just go down it does, like, I mean, Davion Dixon is your lowest ranked skill player in the class, and the dude just had like 30 sacks or something ridiculous. Like he had such a good senior season. Jerome Bettis, so good on both sides of the ball. Brandon Logan, me and Tim were absolutely raving about him last night. Like, he is one of the most freakish athletes in the Midwest. Like, he has not even touched his potential yet. Gordy Stolf said, I don't really know a whole lot about Gordy. He was out his entire senior season. Ko Okia, all three of us, Tim, Goolsby, and myself, were just like, dude, Ko Okia, you would think we're talking about a top 100 overall player. Nolan James, we love, super productive. You just go in the entire class, you're like, I like all these guys. It's a great group. Malachi said he's an MLB player. Like, yeah, he could be playing professionally for baseball. So I don't know what happened to Kyle there. We just lost Kyle's video. So that's fine, because we're going to end the show here, and I'm just going to look at the chat real quick. Many of Notre Dame's ranking for the 25 class are way low. It's just one of those things where it's like every website needs to rank our guys higher. I get it. But, I mean, there's a few that I do believe, like Brandon Logan. I think like On3 specifically has a good ranking of him as a 4-star. I think you'll see some sites follow suit. Ko Okia, I think, should be a 4-star guy. Nolan James, I think, should be a 4-star consensus guy. Matty Augustine is another I feel like should be a 4-star industry ranking. Blake Hebert, I think, should be ranked a little bit higher. But otherwise, I think the rankings for this class are pretty fair for the 2025 cycle. Kyle, any other thoughts? We're about the end the stream, unless you had anything you wanted to add real quick.
Yeah, two more quick thoughts from that press conference. I thought Marcus Freeman, please excuse my dog, it is chaos where I'm at. I thought Marcus Freeman gave a pretty insightful answer into Cameron Herron's recruitment on how, like, Mike, you kind of know, because we were following this one behind the scenes, is how, Herron visited Notre Dame for the first time about a year ago for bull practice.
Mm-hmm.
They kept evaluating him. He came back in the spring for a visit. He came to camp, the Irish Invasion. They liked him, but they didn't love him enough to offer, so he committed to Iowa in the summer. Well, Freeman gave a quote that Joe Rudolph basically just couldn't let them excuse me again. They couldn't let Cameron Aaron, one of the best players in the state, get out of the state because he was such a great such a great fit for the program. And I thought that was a really great job by Notre Dame to get that one done because of that. And I thought the insight, into that process was pretty fascinating. And then Bowden stepped up to the press conference or to the podium after that, and he talked about, how they found that this season, Notre Dame does need a center. And I think this goes back to the spring because they were working guys like Anthony Knapp and Sam Pendleton at center to find someone to replace Ashton Craig in the need, in the case that they would have an injury. Well, if you look at the future of the Notre Dame roster, Ashton Craig, he's going to be coming off a torn ACL. Pat Coogan, his eligibility is going to expire sooner than later. Besides that, you really don't have many other centers on the roster. You do have Joe Otting, but, they were trying Pendleton and Anthony Knapp at center in the spring. So, I'm not really sure where Joe Otting fit into that. Now, he has played this year, so I will say, there's some potential for him to be the future center. But my whole point being is they didn't really have a lot of depth at that position. So I thought that was a great job by the Notre Dame staff to identify that they had a need and go, make the right call to go get someone and then get someone in the state that they knew they couldn't pass up on. So that I thought that was pretty curious, or a great call by them. But one more thing I'll add is I really liked when Chad Bowden was asked about Blake Hebert in that process and kind of what sticks out about him and why they wanted Blake Hebert, and they said his leadership. And I'm glad Bowden said that because when I was in Connecticut to see Hebert, that's a thing that 100% stuck out to me the most. That was my whole theme and angle coming out of my trip to Connecticut. I thought his leadership was off the charts. All his teammates really gelled with him, and you could tell that the guys on that team were playing for their starting quarterback and Blake Hebert. And I felt good to know that someone like me, who most of the time doesn't know what they're talking about, had a good observation from my time in Connecticut, and that the Notre Dame coaching staff felt the same way because they have much more expertise than me. They were around Blake Hebert a lot more than me, but they saw the same things I did in terms of why they decided to go with him and make him the quarterback of the 2025 class.
Folks, really appreciate you for watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video if you have not done so yet. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Our next live show will be Sunday for the playoff release. So that comes out a little afternoon. So I know Kyle and I will do it. Kyle, did I already ask you if you would be down?
Down or not, I'll be there. Now I'm available. Talk some.
Yeah, Browns games, Dolphins game.
Dude, I'm so out of the Browns.
The Dolphins are absolutely terrible too, and I just don't even know what to think. We'll be here for another hour. So yeah, I think Jack said he was in, and then maybe Tyler will pop in too. So we'll do like the 4 full-time blue and gold writers, and then we'll do next Tuesday with Tim, and then we'll be back Thursday press conference. So yeah, maybe we'll slide back to like Thursday at 1, Kyle, or Thursday or Friday at 1, something like that. So we will see you guys next week. Really appreciate everyone for tuning into the show as we've covered Notre Dame's 2025 recruiting class. Make sure you head over to blueandgold.com for much more Notre Dame Fighting Irish football and recruiting coverage. Thank you all for watching or listening, and as always, we will catch you next time.